Welcome to Reread. We're on book 3 of the Jedi Academy trilogy. It's called Champions of the Force, and it starts off just great. I mean, again, Anderson knows how to start off a novel. It's Kip, who has the Sun Crusher. He's going to Cardia, or Cardia, I don't care how you say it, and he's trying to find his brother Zeth, who got drafted by the Imperials forcefully. So he's trying to rescue him. Well, when he makes a threat to destroy their son, the Imperials don't believe him, and they say, "Oh, well, your brother, you wanted him, he's dead," as they're trying to mount a force to take on the Sun Crusher. But when they realize what the Sun Crusher really can do, and that Kip has already shot a weapon into the sun to make it go supernova, they suddenly hurry up to find Zeth, find him, and say, "Here he is, we got him right here." And so Kip now, there's no way to reverse it. He's going to try to save his brother. And right as he's getting there, is when the whole thing goes supernova, white flash, and it's Kip screaming, "No!" And that's the first chapter. Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on in this book. I'm just going to go over some of the highlights. I have heard people say they don't like this, but Jason and Jaina are the only people who are able to see Luke's ghost, and they can kind of converse with him a little bit. And even though it looks like they're close to 3 at this point, because last time we heard it was like 2.5 years, and I mean, they're 2.5 years old, but then Han later on says it's been a couple months since then. So they're pretty much close to 3 if they're not already 3 years old. Anyway, that they can see him, and that Luke, as a spirit, kind of guides Jason's hand to battle off these creatures that Exar Kun has summoned to destroy Luke's body. He's trying to get people to destroy Luke's body. And so Jason kind of fends them off while Jaina gets the rest of the Jedi involved. And then that's how the Jedi know that Exar Kun has Luke's spirit, and they're going to do some kind of meditation seance or whatever and banish him away, which I thought was neat because they do it without lightsabers or anything. And of course they're doing this as a team. And everyone keeps saying, "Oh, the thing with Jason and Jaina, Jason defending Luke, picking a lightsaber, and he was guiding him with the Force." Well, to be honest, we've seen this before in Splinters of the Mind's Eye and several other stuff where, I mean, shoot, even Ulic Qel-Droma in Redemption, there's that picture of him as a Force ghost trying to teach Nomi Sunrider's daughter. So there's a lot of stuff like this that we've seen in the past. Now, maybe this is the first time we ever heard of it, but it's something that was consistent and used in other stories within the expanded universe. I don't hear people complain about that. I mean, I don't have to defend Kevin J. Anderson. You either like him or you don't, but I saw nothing wrong with this. And it's the whole thing about, I don't know if anyone's ever heard this, but especially back in the day, you used to think kids can see stuff that we can't. Eventually the Sixth Sense got in on this because they can see ghosts that adults can't see. And that's probably what Kevin J. Anderson was kind of going for. And I didn't find it hokey at all. Anyway, Turfin, who was the traitor, unwilling traitor, Manchurian candidate, so to speak, for the New Republic, tells Leia that, look, they know where your son is, they know where the planet Anoth is, so we need to go save your son. Well, Leia's like, I don't even know where the location of the planet is. They get Admiral Akbar in on it, and they all go to save Anakin. Winter is there watching him, and she feels something's wrong, and then sees the attack force. Fergan and these like little spider climber droids are going after him. This kind of stretches out toward the end. I'll go ahead and tell you how it ends. Of course, Leia is able to, they're able to rescue Anakin from Fergan. Fergan goes away. Turfin feels like he must, do something to make up for his betrayal. And he will eventually I believe he calls, or he's chasing after Fergan. Fergan slips over a rock on a spider droid and falls to his death. Turgan or whatever is going to do that too. He's just going to commit suicide. And Akbar stops and saves him and goes, "No, your punishment is to live." Now, eventually they know that he was an unwilling spy, and so they forgive him, but he still goes back to Mon Calamari to kind of live out the rest of his days serving his home planet. Meanwhile, Han encounters Kip and gets him to surrender the Sun Crusher. At first, you think he's not going to do it because Lando did a code that shut the Sun Crusher down while they were talking to him. It made Kip really mad, but then he decided, you know what, it is the dark side. Like he was trying to fool himself that Exar Kun was not the dark side. But now that Exar Kun's spirit has been destroyed, Kip can't feel him anymore, and he's starting to get resentment and second thoughts about what all I've done. He does turn himself in to the New Republic. And here's the thing, everyone says that's the other thing. Oh, Ken kills millions of people and he gets off the hook. Well, remember, it was Imperials. And they even say that earlier, that there's some people in the New Republic who are cheering him because he killed so many Imperials. Mon Mothma's not, the head of the council's not, and they're very upset with him because they don't want to, obliterate their enemy. But, they decided to make it a Jedi matter and give it to Luke. Luke, of course, has got to be forgiven because, shoot, World Devastator's anyone? He sat there and let it destroy and kill millions of people too. Darth Vader could be redeemed. Luke believes in redemption and not the death penalty. So, may be aggravating, but he senses through the Force. Ken is repentant and everything. He goes to do the whole Dagobah test, except this time on Yavin 4. Yeah, that one I could have done without, because it's basically just going into a temple where he consults Exar Kun, but doesn't fight him, unlike Luke. So he passed the test where Luke couldn't at the beginning during Dagobah. And he tells Kip that and says, you're going to be a very strong Jedi and whatnot. But when Kip finds out that Han is in trouble, he boards the Sun Crusher and flies off. Now, what's he going to do? Is he going to go nuts again? Or basically he's going to kill some Imperials, right? Now, about Lando and Mara. Mara seems a little bit open to a relationship with Lando. She's not really flirting with him, but kind of saying some quips back and forth that makes Lando smile. So I know Kevin J. Anderson is trying to get a romance going there. Cusack and Wedge basically have a romance going. There's some more Winter and Akbar stuff, because Winter goes, I hope we'll get to see each other soon. And Akbar goes, I would like that. She went, me too. Now again, yes, it's obviously meant to inspire romantic connections there, but you could say, again, she feels close to him like a father, and they're just friends with benefits. Now there is a special appearance by Ghent in this one. He's just in there for like a few pages. Marath Duel has trapped himself into the prison on Kessel because it's the only safe place he can think to hide, and so he's locked everyone out of the prison, so they're trying to break into the prison to capture Duel. Ghent's going to slice in and help them do it, then he disappears from the story completely. I really did forget he was even in this, but at least he was mentioned. Anyway, Han and Lando track him down. Duel eventually escapes through a little secret escape route into the mines of Kessel, and of course the spiders are going to kill him because Han and Lando aren't going to kill him. But anyway, Duel's met his fate, and then meanwhile the prototype Death Star has come into effect because, I forgot to mention, Wedge and Cusack have kind of invaded the faculty with the rebel raiding group, and the scientists have kind of panicked. And they take the prototype Death Star and get out of the mall. Well, of course, they appear on Kessel, and the head scientist wants to test out the prototype. So he shoots, but they misfire and hit the moon instead, and it takes 15 minutes to charge. Well, anyway, all the ships are attacking this prototype Death Star, and because it's a prototype, the Imperials who are kind of running are they're kind of worried that there could be some serious damage here in 15 minutes. So they say, hey, we don't have a squad of TIE fighters or anything. This is just like an empty shell of a Death Star. Let's turn and go back to the mall. And so the scientist agrees, goes back in. Han and Lando have an adventure where they go in after the Death Star. Han pilots himself inside the Death Star. He and Lando and Mara plant some charges. It does heavy damage, but doesn't destroy the Death Star. And I kind of like that. It's a plan that did not work. It didn't go off as planned. And that was really neat. Now, some people say, well, what was the point of that? Why did I have to read all this? Because you thought that was the way they were going to kill it, and to kill the prototype Death Star, and it wasn't. I kind of like that, to be honest. Something a little bit different, something we didn't expect. I didn't even know how the prototype Death Star died. I just totally had forgotten about that. Anyway, so while Han and Lando are kind of flying around the Millennium Falcon trying to stop it, of course there's the battle inside the mall installation. Dala has appeared. She's got a beat up Star Destroyer, but she launches everything at the mall installation to destroy it before the rebels can get all the secrets. Wedge and Cusack are trying, and all the rebels on the station are trying to get off in time before the whole thing explodes. Dala will eventually blow it up, but she'll suffer heavily in the battle. She'll end up with only 7 TIE fighters in a badly damaged Star Destroyer. So after 4 Star Destroyers and thinking that she was the most powerful, brilliant person in the world, she's an idiot. She's an idiot, and her whole team must be idiots too because they haven't lost respect for her. But she's just a failure at everything. I remember first reading this and going, what a moron. But you know what? I like this. Now, let me go back to the scientists here. By the way, scientists are all getting it wrong. They care more about putting things in reports, having meetings. In fact, they had a 2-hour meeting, and the stormtroopers are going, come on, there's a battle going on. And he goes, wow, this is a short meeting, and they're like, hey, what, can they do that? Do we have that in our procedures? Everyone turn to page 745. It's a 600-page manual. And all the scientists on board are trying to look at the manuals because that's all they know is manuals, deadlines, drawing graphs, doing research, and they're in charge of an Imperial garrison, which is why the prototype Death Star really does nothing. They put it at half power to shoot at a few ships, rebel ships inside the mall, kill a few, but when they get to the Sun Crusher, they want it so bad, I think it misses. It's such a small target, the Stormtrooper goes, we can't hit it even at close range. And so the scientist goes, here, let me pilot. And because he's in charge, the Stormtrooper reluctantly has to, give him control. And of course, Kip is able to trick the prototype Death Star into following him into a black hole, where the Sun Crusher goes to be destroyed, as does the prototype Death Star. There is a Messen cylinder that gets ejected from the Sun Crusher, and Han thinks it's Kip's last word, so he and Lando go to pick it up, and it turns out it's Kip who has fit his body in a smaller, it's a big, large capsule, but he's still had to break bones, and he's a Jedi, so this is okay. He broke a lot of bones, broke some ribs just to fit himself into the capsule, but he's going to be all right in the end because he can heal, which I kind of liked. I totally forgotten how that had ended up at the end, to be honest. But that the scientists make so many stupid mistakes, like Dala is yelling at them, like, why aren't they firing the laser? And there's so many mess ups and goof ups, and so it was just just stupid. You're thinking, wow, they're fighting against a bunch of idiots. Yes, and that's refreshing. After we just got through with Thrawn, who's like the Sherlock Holmes, does everyone have to be Sherlock Holmes? No. You have Dala, who thinks she's so important, and she's not. She's terrible at what she does. Now, she'll get better over time, but right now, she is an utter failure and screw up. And the scientists, again, they were put in charge, all right, but they should never have been in charge. It was a total disaster. They could have won the battle. They didn't because of just ineptness, and they just weren't qualified, which is the exact opposite of what we saw with Thrawn. Now, I think the reason people may not like is like, well, why are we looking at all these idiots? It's okay to have people that aren't the smartest in the world. I really like that about Kevin J. Anderson. Even I didn't like Dala, I think, when I first read it, but after a while, as I kept seeing her, I was like, oh, I get this. This is a lady that fails, learns from her failures, does better, fails more epically, and learns from that, and then the cycle goes on and on and on. I thought it was great. Now, meanwhile, I told you Mon Mothma was being poisoned. Well, now she's on her deathbed. She hands the honor of Chief of State over to Leia, so Leia is unanimously voted Chief of State. But before she passes away, it's okay. Silgal is there, the Mon Calamari Jedi trainee, and she's good at healing. So, and I remember this so vividly in my mind reading it. But she's going through the molecules in the blood vessels of Mon Mothma and slowly extracting the poison. And it's coming. She has Mon Mothma's hand in a bowl, and in one of the fingers, this gray liquid. It's all the poison is dripping out. I love that. And she goes, here, get rid of this, incinerate this, because this is poison. And all the poison's out. Mon Mothma's going to live. Leia goes, okay, you want to be Chief of State again? She went, nope, that's all you. And I love that. I love that scene. There is, Dala just kind of disappears into the sunset with a very damaged Star Destroyer and 7 TIE Fighters, which I thought was awesome too. And Luke graduates his first class. It's a great book. I still love the trilogy. I love it just as much, if not more, this time around. Just such a great trilogy. Again, it's okay if a lot of people don't like it, but I thought it was fantastic, and I enjoyed it. This one I had to read over 2 days because it was kind of a busy week. But if I had the time, I could have sat down and read the whole thing. I love the way Kevin J. Anderson writes. Of course, I'm a Kevin J. Anderson fan. I love his other books too, outside of Star Wars. But anyway, great stuff. What's next? Oh no.